Hello and welcome to another Stompy 51 miniature adventure. Today we're going to talk about my growing hordes of orc and goblin, killer Kanz and dreadnoughts. When I was an early teenager, I remember some kid in my class was desperate to flog me one of these space orc dreadnoughts because he wanted to take the money and I think engage in illicit substances because he was moving on, but I was perfectly happy to acquire it, and I enjoyed it for many years, but then stupidly flogged it. And then as the years went on, they got rarer and rarer and more expensive on eBay. I mean, look at this, 65 quid. And I thought I would never get one again until I saw that FNAF Arts was producing some beautifully sculpted 3D STLs of the Dreadnought at a reasonably good price. There you go, there's the link. And they are reproduced, cough cough, extremely faithfully. Now these really are quite spectacular. So this one is hatch button down. Now technically, these are, it's like a giant Mr. Potato Head with a base, kind of bottom of the egg, and then two kind of cylinders, this one and this one, and the hatch with arm attachments on the top and the second cylinder. And you can obviously mix these up as the original 1988 Rogue Trader Dreadnought did, but I just thought, look, let's keep this sensible. We'll have the pincers, of which I think there are two different kinds, a longer and a shorter one stretching out, one stretching in. Let's have those at the bottom, and then the melter gun and heavy bolt or whatever that is at the top, and then with slightly longer legs. And if you compare it to the two fingers salute little killer can, you'll see all that you do is there's just one fewer cylinder and shorter stubbier legs, which is gorgeous and very cute. Now, as with the original, they suggest you can get a bit more variety by spinning the kind of the tummy teeth over here around to be at the back and have that facing the front with the kind of venting. But I just think it looks a bit wrong, because why would you have teeth on your bum? I don't know. It would take one of those weird kind of manga things to the next level, where they have like, I'm not even going to describe it. This is kind of a family channel, but you know what I mean. Now the thing is, this is very in keeping with the original. You've got like a little goblin or snotling with these kind of tubes up his nose. Nothing wrong with that. But I thought that the little killer cans could be with the smaller snotlings, and we could further juice up the larger dreadnoughts because you can take the hatch off and plonking in this Cromlech Miniatures Soviet Gobbo, especially seeing as De Grotte Revolution is a thing. And I'm probably going to spray these red because I've got a whole can of Games Workshop Mephiston red that is largely unused. Maybe someone can tell me in the comments, but I'm not going to base it with sand until I've undercoated it, because for some reason the sand seems to stick slightly to the resin, even though I think the resin is basically cured. The other thing I would say is, the bodies don't fit totally, so there's going to be a bit of they fit, but that leaves obviously a gap in front of them and behind them, and I just filled it up with green stuff, assuming no one would really see it. But if I'd been a bit more thoughtful and elegant, what I would have done is, because this is the kind of the top cylinder, is I would have stuck some kind of rounded piece of cardboard and cut it to shape, stuck it at the bottom, and then put the goblin on top of it. And that would have resolved the gap position a bit better than shoving in loads of green stuff, which is not very elegant. You can't really see it. Well, you can, now you can. But I'm hoping that in the dark, because, I'm going to paint that bit darker, no one will really notice. But isn't that fun? And he's not the only gobbo. He's actually in charge because he's got the Komandirovka hat, if that's a word. But we've got a kind of deranged dude with the star of the Union on his chest over there, and a black proper kind of T-34 commander looking, or driver looking hat on his head, and he's in charge, and he thinks he's in charge, which is why he's just derangedly pointing Vperiot Rabochi Goblin, forward for the working class goblins. And then that little hatch, I think, came from one of, like a 1990s Terminator, not Terminator, Games Workshop Space Marine armored personnel carrier of some kind. I've forgotten what they're called. It might have been surplus to requirements. I don't know why I still have it in the bits box, but now it's found its calling, because what I'm going to do is when I spray this will be kind of red, you know, dabbed with scratches and stuff to make it look properly orky or goblin-y. And then this I'll do some kind of camouflage color, just to show that the melter gun over there actually hit one of these armored personnel carriers and blew it to bits. And so I'll kind of try and make it look, sort of just dab a bit, black around the edges to make it look like a kind of teapot top lid. It just got blown off. And there's nothing wrong with that. And then we've got this fellow over here. He's a bit more respectful, a bit more thoughtful, looking strategically across the plains. What's his name? Rommel and his Greif, his Griffin Hanomag, looking across, thinking strategy through, rather than sticking two fingers up. So he's one of the two little people who come with the killer, with all of these. So I suppose he could go in this, but I thought once I put such big goblins here, the little smaller snotling would have to go in the smaller one, because they are a kind of size-based hierarchy. And I added a few rocks just to make them look a bit more interesting. And as I say, I'll put sand on once I've undercoated these. Thing is, I think today might be a little bit too cold for that. And here's a size comparison against some of the orcs that I've painted recently in preparation for Xenos Rampant. As you can see, I can never resist an unnecessary kit bash. Is there such a thing as an unnecessary kit bash? So his head is from Shadow Spire, a Games Workshop new version of Mordheim with cards, Cromlech head, standard orky orc. An orc with a head from some Blood Bowl Kickstarter of some third-party miniature, and him a kit bash between the Warhammer Fantasy and modern orc bodies. A German orc who's painted his Stahlhelm red, and then one of these quite entertaining vulture boys. Where are the other two? There they are. They were hiding. I kept them simple. I just painted all the silvery bits, kind of bolt gun metal, washed them, and then used a bit of rust effect and just dabbed it in the places you'd think it would be. But I never went wild with these, because you could have quite a few of them. Orcs, I mean. Now, I don't currently play Killteam or Warhammer 40k. Instead, I play the fantastic Mantic Games Dead Zone, which is a kind of 3D small board grid-based game with loads of kind of equivalent factions to 40k and the usual futuristic genre stereotypes, themes. And they've got an orc faction called the Marauders, and they've got basically a Killer Can type character. You can see their perfectly lovely Gruntbot at £20, or the kind of leader version, the Gruntbot Gaffer. And they've got the equally lovely and bigger Marauder Goblin Stuntbot, which is basically their version of the Orc Dreadnought. And you see, what I'm thinking is that in Dead Zone, I'll use the little guys, the Killer Cans, as the so-called Gruntbots, who have average fighting ability. Remember, you can only go up to an 8 on a D8, so 4+, reasonable, safe, and good to have armor too. I mean, someone's got to cause kind of 2 damage just to get through your armor. And then the 2 kind of claws, I'm going to proxy as, well, I can pick. Either I can go for the Ripper Talon approach, showing that the claw is kind of really grabbed on and is tenacious and has armor piercing too, or, they're just hacking with both claws in a kind of buzzsaw type motion, which gives only armor piercing 1, but gives frenzy, which I can't remember, but might be involved in extra dice. And I'm going to use the bigger guys, the Dreadnoughts, as stunt bots in Dead Zone. And as you can see, they've got less chance of hitting with Fight 5 plus instead of a 4 plus, but they've got a range capacity and they've got armor 3, so you've got to cause 3 damage just to get through them, or have armor piercing, obviously something to kind of get through. And they've got 5 hit points, which takes a lot to get through. And in terms of the kind of loadout that I'd be giving, I think, let's have a look down this list. What did I decide? So I think the guys with a kind of flamer and auto gun, I'm just going to say that's the stuntbot slasher, because they've got an auxiliary flamer and a thermal cannon, and the 2 claws will just count as buzzsaw and frenzy. And then the ones with the plasma guns and normal kind of auto cannon, I'm just going to say that that's the stuntbot tank ripper, which obviously has amazing range at range 12, and armor piercing 5, which presumably just goes through anything like a slice of bread, or knife through butter is what I'm looking for. But anyway, thank you very much for watching to the end. Please do subscribe if you haven't already. It'll get more people sort of seeing me sharing my little hobby journey. Do leave any comments you wish. I love it when people engage. Great hearing different thoughts, different comments, different tips, because this isn't really a channel telling you how to do it. It's more just showing you what I'm doing, and I'm learning all the time as well. Have a great evening or day wherever you are, and keep safe.